Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bearded Mystics Oneness Conversations with Gary Haskins. He is, in my opinion, one of the famous YouTubers that we have that creates great interviews with people in the spiritual circles. He asks the right questions. He delves deep, and I've been on the show once. It's Conscious Perspective, and it's really, really good. Do check it out. The link is in the show notes to his channel, so make sure you do check him out. And so the first question, Gary, and welcome. It's nice to see you after a couple of years.
Same
Although I've
to
been
you.
although I've been seeing you actually on my feed a lot. So, so
But
which
now we're
is good.
tapped in.
Yeah.
You can.
Yes. So the first question is, how did the spiritual path actually catch your attention? Why did you want to get involved in it?
Hmm. It's a tough one. I never know how to answer that. I was always inclined. I don't know where it came from. Maybe previous lives, as some say. But I was always inclined with a sense of curiosity at what all of this was, man. Because I feel as though, or I felt as though, it never made sense. It was just there was some kind of incongruence in how the whole world was set up and how I was supposed to be, how I was supposed to sound, how I was supposed to look, etc., etc. So there was always like a sense of curiosity of wanting to find out what's real, because I was like, this is something's not adding up here. Like there's just something that just didn't resonate. There was not a lot of resonance, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
Um so that, like I said, led me down a sense of curiosity. But that curiosity was very material minded. Back in
Mhm.
the day, I'll say, I don't know, my teen years to my early 20s, I was a pragmatic atheist, material minded. If it couldn't be proven with science, then it didn't exist kind of mind. So I was curious in that way, which I think is a good first step, right?
Mhm.
Wanting answers to certain questions, just using proofs and maybe mathematics to prove it. From there, how did I get into spirituality from there? Because I do feel as though that is a sort of spirituality, but it's like it's not quite there. It's not quite the level of yoga.
Mhm.
It's a tough one. How did I get in that? Honestly, it probably came from a sense of still, even though I was still searching for answers in books, in the material world, the material mind, there was still that yearning inside, still like a sense of dissatisfaction. I
Mhm.
was like, I guess reached a breaking point of just certain mental illnesses, just somewhere along the way, it still didn't add up. This was mid 20s, I'd say. Still looking for something, seeking something. I don't know what it was, but still just the curiosity never ended. And then, like I said, certain mental ailments came about. I wanted to improve that naturally, as I hopefully we all would. Got into meditation because I heard all of the beautiful benefits of meditation. And from there, I think that's when it started. I think that's when the whole path started, was when I learned to just sit with that sense of mind, that sense of seeking, that sense of dissatisfaction, and just be curious at that. What is that? What is the one? Where is this all coming from? The one that is dissatisfied. Sitting with that every day in a ritualized manner. I think that is how the whole spiritual path came to be, is rather than questioning everything from the outside, the world, like I said, this world that didn't add up, that just seemed to be backwards, turning that focus inward, that switched up everything. And it did actually help my mental ailments. I would say my depression, anxiety, all of the mental illness that I was probably born with, it seemed to be mitigated. But that was just a byproduct. That just came along the way, I think, from the looking inward.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, uh, does that answer your question? It's
It,
more of just
no,
staying on a curious path.
yeah, no, that's really beautiful, and I think I really like the fact that you said that it was a byproduct and not the direct cause, because I think sometimes people can, as you probably know, people probably come onto the spiritual path thinking it will get rid of all their problems, and sometimes it can bring in more problems than
Yes,
actually.
very true.
Um,
Very true. I
so
think ultimately, though, it does help. I think that's why we do it. I mean,
yes,
getting right into this thing, I think we suffer so that it can align us with this so-called spiritual path. I really do think there's no other way to go about it. We all have this sense of inertia, just like this density in our head, and there's no way to untangle that until you follow the path.
mm,
And I would recommend just meditation. I know there's many different yogas, well, 4 different yogas, as they would say in the
yeah,
Gita. But me personally, I would recommend meditation to everybody. And
mhm,
it's not going to work for everybody, but I think a vast majority of people can benefit from regular meditation. And it won't necessarily, how do I put this? Yeah, it won't get rid of your suffering. It will just allow you to look at it a little bit differently, which then you could say thus does get rid of it per se, but it's nothing to get rid of. It's just a transcendence through how one looks at the seeming suffering person.
mhm, mhm.
You see? Yeah.
Got you. So you mentioned the 4 yogas. So obviously, this one specifically is Raja Yoga that is
Mhm.
mainly talked about, and it's obviously expressed a lot through Swami Vivekananda ji's writings uh, and lectures. So Did you ever read his book on Raja Yoga, and how did that help? If you did,
No, I actually haven't. I know I probably should have, and I sound a little fake for not reading it, but I know much of Swami Vivekananda and what he has to say. I just haven't dove into that specific book, and I know a lot about Raja Yoga. I just have yet to explore his actual. Well, I've explored his writings, just not in a full, like a full book in a manner
yeah,
where I sit down and go through hundreds of pages. But I do know of it
yeah,
very well.
yeah. So how did you
Mhm.
come across Raja Yoga then?
Hmm. I don't know, man. Just along the way of just learning meditation. Somehow, well, it's probably through the Gita. I think the Gita was probably the
Hmm.
first explanation of Raja Yoga, most likely. But yeah, it was just I went through a yoga 200-hour teaching course, and that was probably a very fair introduction to the whole idea of Raja Yoga.
Hmm.
Which that was just the tip of the iceberg, but still, I think it was a good introduction into it. A good platform.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's good to hear, because a lot of the nowadays, because these yoga courses are good business, they hardly talk
Yeah.
about these philosophical aspects now. So it's kind of nice that at least your course talked about the Gita and how Raja Yoga was uh, kind of implied by Sri Krishna quite a bit, actually, when we think
Mm,
about it. In fact, if you want to say the whole I would say the whole Gita itself, the underlying aspect is that you're meant to be centered when you read it. And it's when
mm,
you're centered, you get that focus like Arjun, where you can finally, get over the the pains and ailments of life and the material attachments. So it's interesting because people would
mm,
think Shri Krishna is only about one path, or there's schools of thoughts that just be like, oh no, he's only about bhakti, or he's only about jnana yoga. But actually, I think all 4 of them are intertwined and infused within it, and you can't deny one of the other. But like you said, everyone can have a preference, and again, that's according to your karma or your past lives. Do you believe in past lives and And what's been your experience in like having maybe interviews with people who've spoken about their past lives? Have you ever had that? And what's your
Yeah.
view about it in general?
Oh man, depends on the day. um, I'm more inclined to say yes, that we
Mhm,
do have past lives. It seems to be the way of things. Somehow, some way, we are born over and over and over again. And that
mhm,
might be why some of us have certain inclinations that others don't have. It's just like remnants of past lives, other karma that we have to reap. You know, why are some people so good when they're born
mhm,
at guitar, or they're such good singers, or just have a knack? We all have our knacks. So most likely it's remnants from other lives, and it seems just right, man. Doesn't it? Like when you meditate on reincarnation, it seems like, yeah, that's just how it be. That's just how it is. And one could say, "Oh, you're just coping because you're afraid to die. Like you want to be reborn."
mhm,
No. Actually, that's not the good news. If you look into Eastern philosophy, you don't want to live forever. Like that's the bad news. Yeah, you've been in this thing for millions and millions and millions of lives. It's called samsara, and you don't want to do that again. So it's not a coping mechanism. It's just actually facing the truth that, whoa, wait a second. I'm in this perpetual, I was going to say trap. It's not really a trap because you don't want to look at it like that. But if you're not aware of it, it could be a trap. Like if you're not aware of samsara, it's a trap of ultimate ignorance.
mhm,
So, point of the story is, yes, I do believe in it. Um, and it's not because I want to believe in it. You know what I
mm,
mean? It's not
yes.
because my fear is convincing me that, like, oh yeah, we live forever. No, it's actually seems like that's just how it is. That's just the game, I guess you could say. And I don't think you can read that from a book. I don't think it's something that somebody can tell you. You just have to go within yourself, meditate earnestly. Can't emphasize that enough. And just that will just become apparent. It just becomes apparent. I'm not 100% sure of it. I'm not 100% sure of anything, but it just seems likely, very
Mm.
likely that that is the thing.
You mentioned, I liked what you said about how some people can utilize it as a coping mechanism. And there's so many people
Mm.
that would turn around and say, well, I don't, maybe in my next life I can look at spirituality. A lot of people in the Indian
Yeah.
diaspora will say this. And it's
Hmm.
like, um, and my guru once asked this question: how do you not know that this is your last life? Why are you thinking that your last life is in the next one? You could actually be in it right now. So it's interesting that you said that, and I think a lot of people do utilize it as a coping mechanism to kind of perpetuate their ignorance and keep it going. That's yeah, that was really cool,
Yeah.
man. It's
Thanks,
really
man.
cool.
I don't
Yeah.
believe it matters. I think if this is our last one,
Hmm.
or if we have a million after this, it doesn't matter. As in, what I'm supposed to do here, the dharma that Gary imbues into the world, isn't affected by millions of lives or this only life.
Hmm.
If you're truly, if you're truly following your dharma in this life, it doesn't matter. That's just like another narrative. That's just another story. So, you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm following.
Yeah,
I'm following.
yeah. Yeah. So I don't like to get caught up in that because that can just be another story. That can just be like another trap. It's cool to talk about. And obviously, I've talked about it plenty. And it's cool to entertain. But at the end of the day, if you're truly, in the now, in the here and now, following one's dharma, going with the logos,
Hmm.
if you're truly present, like true presence, it doesn't matter. It's like,
Mm.
what does it matter, man? Be here now, right? I'll tell you
Yes.
this story, and hopefully I don't mess it up. You've probably heard it. Most likely you've heard it before. There was this monk who was traveling on the road to heaven, on the road to God. And along the way, he came across this dancing man. And he said, "Hey, what's up, man?" And he said, "Hey, where you going?" "Oh, I'm just going to heaven and talk to God." He said, "Oh, cool. Can you ask him how many lifetimes I got left? Yeah, for sure. Walks on by. And then he sees another man sitting, the lotus posture, the cliche monk just meditating under the Bodhi tree.
Yeah.
Interrupts his meditation. Hello, sir. Hi. What's going on? Oh, I'm just going to visit God, going to heaven. Oh, cool. Can you ask him how many lifetimes I got left? Yeah, sure. So goes there, talks to God, lets him know the deal. On the way back, he sees, let me not mess this up. Yes, he sees the monk again. And he says, obviously, talk to God? Yeah, man. Well, how many lifetimes I got left? He said about 5. And right then and there, the monk came out of his meditation posture, angry. He's like, what do you mean 5? I've been doing this. I've been on the path, doing all of these modalities, cliche Raja yogi, just angry, just furious. What do you mean 5 lifetimes? So obviously that guy had to get out of there because the monk was getting angry. He wasn't happy about the news. And he moves on further down the path, and he sees the dancing man, just exuberant, he's just having a great old time, right? Hey, what's up, man? You just talk to God? Yeah. How many lifetimes I got left? He said about 5 million. And then the dancing man goes, that's it? And he continues dancing on and on.
Oh.
And he's just dancing how he was dancing before, and keeps going. The guy keeps going that talked to God, and that's it. And that's the moral of the story, is it doesn't really, how do I put this? You have to be present, man. It doesn't really matter what you do. It doesn't matter how many lifetimes you have left. You kind of just have to dance the dance.
Mm.
The spiritual path isn't something that looks a certain way to one person. I mean, well, how do I put this? It may look a certain way to one person, but it may apply differently to you. So,
Mm.
how do I put this, man? The monk, he only had 5, right? He may look like a spiritual person.
Mm.
He may look like he's in the moment, but when he got the news that he had 5, he's pissed off. Seems like a lot to him. Wasn't he doing a lot of work? And then the dancing man, he had 5 million. He was okay with it. So who was more enlightened? I'd say the dancing man.
Yeah. I'll go with
I
that
don't
too.
know. You like it? I like that story.
Yeah.
I mean, one could argue and be like, well, is he really more enlightened if he has 5 million lifetimes left? I get that, but that's kind of going beyond the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The story is be here now, and the spiritual path is kind of different for everybody. And if you're truly here now, I guess it doesn't matter. I don't know if that
That's
makes
true.
sense.
No, that's true. That's true. I really like that story. I've heard it before, but it's a story that really, I think, no matter how many times you listen to it, there's always another teaching you get from it, another element that you can grasp, and another nuance that can
Yeah,
deepen your understanding, as you mentioned.
all stories are like that. All like poetic. How do I put this? Poetic. What are those called? What is? There's got to be a term for that. I know there is. Like stories of the Bible. What
The
are those called,
parables.
man? Parables. That's the word I was looking
Yeah.
for. A true poetic, good parable is like that. You
Mm.
hear it 50 times, and all those 50 times are different. Maybe it even gets better every time you hear it. I hope I told it right. I don't even know
I,
if I told it right,
I
to be
think you
honest with
did.
you.
If not, it's a better version.
Yeah, it's Gary.
It's an evolved version.
Mm,
And that's the way it should be. I don't think, some people like things to be rigid in the way the story was told before, but sometimes when you add your own flavor in and you're open about it, it's kind of, it actually helps to bring more
yeah,
nuance. That's what I think anyway.
too, man. And I think that's what we're doing um, right now. Once you link up to the Dharma, this may seem a little esoteric, but I'm going there, man. Once you link up to the Dharma, you become part of the story. So the story is not
Mm,
yet finished. The story is still ongoing. I feel like we think we've reached the end of evolution, evolution of consciousness, evolution of our bodies, and in that way. But no, we're still evolving towards something else. And I feel like it's a sort of story, it's a sort of adventure that started millions and millions of years ago. And you can become a part of it if you really want to.
mm,
You know, like you
yes.
can really you become a part of that with the word. Like the word is somehow in the parable, in the parables that we tell to each other. We become
Yes.
a part of that. It's quite powerful.
You do, and you're absolutely right, man. Like a lot of people, they think stories aren't important. They do have a place, and I think at least if you're beginning, you should start with stories because it's a great
Hmm.
way to use your imagination and to kind of. And I think imagination brings you to intuition eventually. That's when you can start grasping the deeper philosophies. Otherwise,
Yeah.
if you go straight to the deeper philosophies, one, you may become as dry as hell, and two, um, you will miss, I think, the juice of the truth.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
you can miss it.
Yeah, because there's something about poetry that brings you beyond
Mm.
the mind stuff, just beyond the story itself. Like there's something where the story in a good parable or a good poem brings you to that place, the mind of the mind.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Totally get it, man. Like, I think, well, if you think about it, every like the Bhagavad Gita is actually a poem. It's a song.
yeah. It's the
Uh,
song of the Lord.
yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, the Ashtavakra Gita is a song. The song of Ashtavakra, the most radical non-duality. So it's like everything is done in poetic form. In fact, the
Yeah,
Vedas, the Upanishads, is purely poetry. And
yeah,
I think people sometimes miss out on the fact that because they see it written and then they see the commentary, they think, oh yeah, that must be like some, it's not poem, it's not a poem, but it really is. And I'm with you. I think
hmm,
there's a lot, like when you read a poem of Rumi's, and
mm,
it can sometimes uh, take you to that oneness straight away. And it's not
yeah,
the words actually. It like there's something that's happening behind the words. It's
yes,
it's
yeah,
it's phenomenal, man.
yeah. Right. Yeah, it is behind the words. That's a good way to put it. It's the magic behind the words.
Yeah.
It's
And
like a
mind you,
certain
that's a
formula.
translation. Mind you, that's a translation as well.
That's true too. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. There's something special about Sanskrit. I imagine if I was fluent in Sanskrit, it would hit differently.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think so. Um, Sometimes I listen to the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads. Now you can get it on. It's on Apple Music. I'm sure it's on Spotify too. Where you can like listen. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Where you can listen to like monks chanting the Bhagavad Gita, and I will tell you, it's a crazy experience just even listening to it. Even though I don't
Yeah.
understand the Sanskrit, but there's a
Mm.
power behind,
Yeah.
there's a vibration behind those sounds
I know what
of
you
the
mean.
eternal, you know?
Some kind of transmission.
Yeah, which cannot be
Something.
denied.
I mean, have you ever done kirtan with a group of people?
Never with a group of, well, yeah, I have actually. I've been to a few, even of the, um,
Mm.
when they're singing and they're chanting, they're second to none, really.
Yeah.
I give them that. I don't agree with their philosophy, but I'll say openly, no one can do kirtan or chanting like them. Uh,
Mm.
like they're
Hmm.
brilliant. They're pros, man. But yeah, I
Definitely pros.
but yeah, I really enjoy it because like even like I listen to a lot of Sufi Qawwalis, and sometimes the music of the harmonium or the tabla beat uh, can just take you to the place of no sound, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
yeah. You like, use the sound to go to the place with no sound, where the
Yeah.
sound originates from.
Yes.
Wow,
Yes.
that is
What about you?
powerful.
What about yourself? Have you been to like
Yeah.
kirtan, and what's been your
hmm
experiences when you've attended?
Very, very transcendent and transformative. Every time that I've done group kirtan, it does transport you to,
Hmm.
like you said, the place where the sound comes from, a place of no sound. You almost become the sound, you become the mantra. And I
Hmm.
feel as though it's exemplified with a group. Because I do plenty of kirtan myself,
Nice.
but when you're with a group, there's something like you all get tuned in and dialed in together. There's something that goes on, and especially Sanskrit. There's something about the connotations of Sanskrit, like the actual the how do I don't know what the right word is. Is it the verbiage, like how it comes off of the tongue? There's
Hmm.
something just like so magical. Like for instance, if you I have songs that I listen to where it's in Sanskrit and they do it in English, and the same meaning in English, it just doesn't sound the same. It doesn't, like, the meaning is there. I understand what they're saying, but just how it just the frequency is just completely different. There's something so special about the language, man. And it's definitely exemplified when you do it with a group. Somehow, some way there's power to it. But yeah, putting it simply, ultimately doesn't really matter what they say. Doesn't really matter what words are used as long as you use it to bring you to that place, the place
Yes.
of no place, the
Yes.
place of
Nice.
stillness. That's all that matters. You could use English, you could use Spanish, whatever language, whatever mantra, whatever reminder, whatever totem you decide to hold, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
um but Sanskrit, for some reason, is a very effective totem. It's a very effective
Yes.
way to do that. I don't know why. I don't
Now,
know.
I think that's language in general. But yeah, specifically Sanskrit, I think it's because uh, it's maintained itself. Although people may argue that there is, some people may say, oh, people don't speak Sanskrit as much anymore, and stuff like that. There might be some people like that, but the fact that it's maintained itself despite so much invasion that's happened to India,
Mm,
the
mm,
fact that it has
true.
still stayed relevant, I think,
Yeah.
is a testament to its origin.
Mm,
And yeah, it's definitely from uh, yeah, those rishis that were practicing Raja Yoga and they got that transmission, and we read those transmissions today, or we hear it. Uh, yeah, it's coming from a place that's beyond this planet and this,
yeah.
possibly even this universe.
uh, yeah.
Um,
Oh man, that's good. I was reading something from the Upanishads from Sri Aurobindo,
yeah,
and I'm not going to articulate this well. He's so eloquent, man.
yeah, he
I don't
is,
even know
isn't
if I want to try. But
it?
he's saying that, the idea of the word became flesh in the Bible,
Hmm.
that is the truth behind. I don't even know if I want to. I don't want to even destroy what he said. But to your point, I'm trying to touch upon your point of like this didn't come from this universe. He's
Hmm.
saying there's certain ways to use the word that we're speaking about now that are very poetic that point you toward the word of the word, because word is just symbolism. All words are just symbolizing something. But if you use them in the right way, one that attunes with the logos, it turns that symbol on itself back in. And it doesn't come from here. Some other, like, I mean, you could say all is here, all is one in a true non-dual sense. I get that. But something that is beyond at least the material world. Like there's something, you can say God. It brings you to that place where it's all facilitated from. And it might also be because Sanskrit is so old and so well preserved that it brings you there. Because there had to be at one point in our evolution of consciousness where there was only one language, most likely, right? It only
Yeah.
makes sense. Sanskrit is one of the oldest ones. There's probably just like, if there's a branch in a tree of languages, that is probably,
Yeah.
it's insane at this point. Sanskrit's probably very close to the base layer of the original language. In the original language, most likely is the closest that was to God. Most
Mm,
likely, if I had to imagine, the original human language came from like intuition. And I believe
mm,
intuition is all stemming from God. So most likely, the further you go down the tree of language, you get closer to the symbolism that brings you most efficiently to God, or most
mm.
efficiently into the here and now, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I'm getting
yeah,
at?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. And um, and that's an interesting point because if we ever get to experience that original language, I think it is through meditation.
Mm-hmm.
In my
Yeah.
opinion, like that's the
Mm.
only way it could enter. It's not like it's away from our consciousness. It's there. It's
Yeah.
present. It's very much there. Nothing ever dies. So it's all about just
It's
really
there.
tapping into it.
It's
And
been there. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. It's not, it hasn't disappeared. The word, the capital W, it's
yeah,
always there. And I don't think it's going to be in the form, or it's not even going to be, it's not in the form, like when you access the word per se, the logos, it's not in the form of language.
yes,
It's
yes,
through the whispers of intuition. I got that from Yogananda. That's not
yeah.
my original words. It's the whispers of intuition. And if you don't still the mind and silent the
Mm,
mind enough, you're not going to be able to hear the whispers of your
mm,
intuition, the whispers of God. It's very subtle and it's not a language. You could compute it as a language, as a forethought, you know, but that comes afterward. Like that communication, that link up with the word, the
mm,
logos, which I've used plenty. It's something that is you can feel it. You can definitely feel it. Become one with it. Become very acquainted with
mm.
the intuitional whispers. But it's not something that is like downloaded. Like how do I put this? It's not like a voice in my head. You
Yes,
know what I
yes,
mean?
yes, yes.
It's more of just like a subtle direction and subtle discernment that
Mm,
you can
yes.
tap into. But it's not like I
Mm.
have demons talking to me or
Yeah,
anything like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Definitely not
Yeah,
that. It's interesting because in the Hindu scriptures and also in the Sikh scripture, the Guru Granth Sahib, the Hindus we call it the Anhadh, and the Sikhs call it the Anhadh Shabd, and literally it kind of is talking about these sounds that are they call it celestial, but
yeah,
basically it's beyond our human comprehension. So what you're talking about, I actually kind of vibe with because it's a common practice that you should be able to tap into the unheard Shabad. Um,
Anhadh Shabd.
and
Mm.
basically, that's like a lot of gurus use that to see if you're actually getting closer to becoming one with the formless.
Fireworks going off.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. Um,
It was meant to be. That's pretty funny.
yeah, how that even knew what to do? That's
Anhadh Shabd.
yeah.
Anhadh
The
Shabd.
Anhad
No,
just
I don't know.
created the fireworks. So, um, yeah, yeah, that's what.
Sorry.
So yeah,
Did I mess you up?
no, no, no. But basically, it's used as a tool to say that you're getting close to that oneness, and
You
it's
can
a good
feel that.
sign if you
Mm.
can hear that sound. I think what you call the original language,
Yeah.
you get in there, type of thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it makes sense. Like logically, I think it makes sense when you're like when I say logically in terms of how the spiritual journey is meant to be
Mhm.
kind of prescribed if you follow a particular tradition. That's a question. Do you feel like there's a value for tradition like following a particular lineage, or do you feel that everyone has their own path? But then, are there pitfalls to that as well? As much as there's the obvious positives, and are there pitfalls to that?
Hit me with some good ones, man. These are good, making me think. I do think there's value to lineage. There definitely was before the internet, for sure,
Yeah.
because that's how knowledge was preserved. The
Yes.
only way it could be preserved is pretty much through a long game of telephone through initiated
Yeah.
individuals, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have the internet. We didn't have record keeping like that. We had books, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
And in lineage, like, how do I put this? It preserves knowledge that originally came from the source, right? So when I see a monk, especially a Buddhist monk, I see Buddha, because
Mm.
really what that is supposed to be is a link, maybe like 100, 200 links. I don't know the exact number, but 200 links all the way to the Buddha's original Dharma.
Mm.
And each time the chain link was made, was one person, originally started with Buddha, that said, yep, you have the ability, you have my go ahead, my okay to preserve this Dharma and spread it onto others and also initiate others in the process. That's so powerful. That's some Jedi stuff right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I believe that is the importance of lineage, is preserving original Dharma. Because if not, then it gets muddy. There's so much
Yeah.
BS of spirituality on the internet. It's like, and even before the internet, there's just anyone could be spiritual, anyone can call themselves a monk, but to have a lineage of tradition preserves just like truth. Really,
Mhm.
truth is something that is transmitted through generation to people, to people, to people. And yeah, you don't need it. You don't need to be a monk, for sure, in order to have that knowledge bestowed upon you. But I do believe, to have that knowledge preserved for all of humanity, we do need to have a lineage where people initiate each other. Because can just if everybody can just kind of spew forth the Dharma, I don't know. It could get misconstrued. It can get lost in literal translation. It can get lost in interpretation. There's just so much wonkiness that could come from it. And I think that's happening, to be honest with you. I do believe that's happening. So, moral of the story, actually, how do I tie this all together? Because it was kind of a two-pronged question. Tradition
Mm.
is important, lineage is very important, but also we live in a beautiful time where you don't need that at all, to be honest with you. But you have to have a keen eye, the whispers of intuition, to lead you along the way. Because if not, you will get sucked into pseudo spirituality and just BS, to keep it frank. So if you don't have that, then I don't know what to tell you. I would approach a monk. I would approach people like that. If you don't know where to start, yeah, go to people that know what they're talking about, or at least seem like they know what they're talking about. Go to people that, monks, if you can. There's plenty online. There's plenty. And that's how I see them. Like when I approach monks and talk to monks, I'm like, okay, these are people of the Dharma. I'm going to approach them and try to just be a genuinely curious inquisitor when I'm with them. And I've come to find, I used to be intimidated by monks because I'm like, what is, like, I know they're like Jedi, like I said, but I've come to find that they love to do that because that is literally their job. That is their Dharma. That is their sadhana here. They are the preservers of the Dharma. And also, they just want to get the message out. They want to spread the Dharma because they have been initiated to do so. Um, so, if you are on the internet, I would recommend this personally. If you are on the internet, you are seeking genuine truth, see if you can find some initiated monks, initiated people, and start there. So, it's both. You can do this yourself, but it can get messy. So, do it yourself, but when you're doing it yourself, find a lineage.
Yeah.
So,
That's
it's both.
nice. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, the reason why I asked that, because you must have interviewed people who probably will be like, "There's no need for a lineage," or
For sure.
everyone has their own. It's a good spiritual bypassing way of when people say everyone has their own journey. Um,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like that's why I was asked a question, because how do you kind of, when you come across people like that, when you interview them, how do you like kind of do you ever like probe into that a bit, or do you think it's something best not to be touched type of thing?
Probe into what?
Like why they feel that they don't need to be part of a lineage, and why that is
Oh,
why they think lineages are messy. They can be a totally other side to this.
it's a good question. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever asked anybody that. I don't really usually probe like that. I just let people have their opinion. I don't try to
Yeah.
challenge, but I'm trying to understand like why someone would think like that. I think it's just a lack of understanding within themselves of what the Dharma truly is.
Hmm.
And because you can learn a lot without a lineage for sure, but I feel as though you're just missing something. You're just like, you're not, I don't know, you're just, because I wasn't on that wavelength. I wasn't always talking to monks. I wasn't always reading the Upanishads and the
Yeah.
Gita and the Tao Te Ching and stuff like that. I wasn't reading the classics.
Yeah.
Like I got into spirituality, like I said, through meditation, but then it was just through, from there, my jhana yoga took over, right? And I went
Yeah.
onto the internet, and it didn't start with going to a lineage. I don't know how it started. Yeah, just regular people talking about it online. I guess it's just regular YouTubers
Yeah.
talking spirituality using certain buzzwords and parroting. And that only goes so far. Like it gets you there. It's better than not, I guess. It's
Mhm.
better than just talking about the Yankees, I guess. I'm
Yeah.
not hating on that, but I'm just saying like it's better than nothing. But it only goes so far because there's something special about someone who lives the Dharma. Because monks, man, I revere them so much. I revere them so
Yeah.
much. They not only know their stuff off the top of their head, they live their stuff. That is their
Mm.
life. Their whole life is the ritual. Their life is the Dharma, like I said. So you're not getting that from somebody, just some random YouTuber online.
Yeah.
You're not, like, there's a missing link there. And it's that they're not really living the Dharma. And not necessarily, I'm not saying everybody has to become a monk
Right.
to become someone that is worthy of knowledge. It's not, it's hard because we're talking in generalities here. you know
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's different. Everybody who you resonate with is going to be different from who I resonate with, so it's hard to say. But in a general sense, very general sense, monks just know what they're talking about because they walk the walk.
Yeah.
They don't just talk about it. It's not just theory. It's like they're really living that life. They're living the Dharma, as I said. So yeah, it's hard to talk in generalities like that. But I would say there's a very large correlation of monks that just know what they're talking about, that are aligned with truth.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
causation for sure. There's definitely some wonky monks for sure. Like it's not a guarantee, but it's definitely a correlation between solid knowledge,
Uh, uh,
solid wisdom.
yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you, because I think it's interesting. Um, the few wonky monks, as you mentioned, they are few and far between, actually. When you
Hmm.
think about it, yeah, the most decent ones, yeah, they're not going to be in your face. They're going to be there on YouTube, but you're going to have to search for it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
for example, like a Ramana Maharishi in India is not in Rishikesh or Haridwar or Delhi or Mumbai. He is in some remote place in southern India.
yeah.
Like, so using that analogy for the same thing with the internet. I mean, the genuine ones maybe are not what the algorithm wants to present you with. You have
That's for
to
sure.
you have to bypass the algorithm.
That's for sure. Yeah.
That's the highways of India. But
Hmm.
yeah, but yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I think sometimes people get too anti-guru, and or and it's just, I think that
It's
does a big
understandable.
disservice. Yeah, it is understandable if you've been burnt, but a lot of people haven't been
Yeah.
burnt, and
Yeah.
they cook up someone else's story as their own, which
Hmm.
again I think can trap you
Yeah.
into. And what tends to happen, I find, is if people haven't actually gone through that path, they like have actually gone to a teacher and learned. If they read somewhere that something bad has happened, they're like speak from it from the microphone, like from the loudspeaker, and just be like booming that kind of
Hmm.
a thing. And I find that's a bit sad sometimes. But again, I say a majority of people I know are more open, uh, especially now. Again, with YouTube, I think has opened the floodgates where you can get a few really nice swamis who've got popular,
Hmm.
um, and I think it's done some service into showing that not everyone is a charlatan. Some
Yeah.
are pretty cool. And
Yeah.
some are
That's for
actually
sure.
pretty funny. Um,
Yeah.
so it's kind of interesting.
Mm.
Is there any teachers, maybe two or three that you feel have really made a strong impact on you, and what is it about them or their teachings that created that impact?
Hit me with the good ones. These are some good questions.
Oh, thank
Hmm.
you.
Well, all of my teachers are not in their body anymore.
Mhm.
Like ones that I revered that really, solid me along this path. They're they came and went. You could still say they're here in their word, but they came and went. Number one is Ram Dass,
Hmm.
for sure. Ram Dass, something about his eloquence and his humor, like you said.
Yeah.
Something about humor in a teacher. They gotta be funny, somewhat funny, because it's like when you start to take them a little too seriously and what they're saying a little too seriously, they throw a good joke in there, let you, weight off your shoulders, let you take it all less seriously. That's important. It's very
Yeah.
important, and I think it's important so that you don't mistake the finger pointing at the moon for the
Hmm.
moon. I think there's something about humor that lets you, there's something that just says, no, I'm not the answer. There's something about a good joke,
Yeah.
good teacher with humor. But yeah. So it was Ram Dass. Who else? One that is not associated with yoga, Terrence McKenna.
Hmm.
He's up there. Who else, man? Who else? There's definitely a list. I have a list of masters. Let me take a
Yeah.
few seconds. I have a list of masters just because I wanted to make one day
Oh, that's
of
pretty cool.
influential teachers. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Sorry, this is a
No, no.
intermission. It's brought
Yeah.
to you by.
You can buy this
Here it
yogi
is, list of
tea.
masters. I got it. So this
Yeah.
is my list of masters. 19. I have
Yes.
20. I never got to number 20. It's like I
Yeah.
have the 20, but I never put the name in. I guess I'm just trying to think of one. All right, here we go. Ram Dass, Buddha, Alan Watts, Swami Satchidananda, Yogananda, and the whole Kriya lineage. I like to think of them as like one,
Hmm.
like Yogananda's whole lineage. Thich
Hmm.
Nhat Hanh, Sri Aurobindo, Jesus, Swami Sivananda, Swami Vivekananda, Bhikkhu Buddhadasa, Lao Tzu, Terence McKenna, Jiddu, Krishnamurti,
Hmm.
Ramana Maharishi, Nisargadatta Maharaj, Aldous Huxley, Eckhart Tolle, and Muji. And that's my
Nice.
list. It's work in
Nice.
progress. I think it's a solid
Nice.
list.
That's a pretty good list. That's a very good
But some of
list.
them, Muji's still alive. I said some of them aren't in their body. Muji and Eckhart Tolle. I think those are the only two guys that
Yeah.
I
And you
said
do
are still
say
alive.
Swami Sarvadevananda?
Sivananda.
Oh, Sivananda. Yeah, he's passed away. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's passed. Um,
Yeah.
his his commentary on the Brahma Sutras are pretty good.
I haven't
I
read
really
that.
like them.
I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
it's quite comprehensive, but it's pretty good.
You're quite
Um,
learned. You have read many texts. Quite
and
intimidated in that way.
no, no,
You've
no,
read stuff that I haven't read.
no. Sometimes, but again, although yeah, I may have read a bit. but uh, I always feel like there's still so much more I could read. Like I still
Mm-hmm.
feel like I've read nothing
Mm.
compared to like there's an ocean ahead of me, and I'm still collecting shells, you know,
Yeah.
and that's what I feel like.
Yeah.
Um, but
When are you
yeah,
gonna
like
write your own book?
well, you know, I've written two poetry books, but I kind of want to do a third one because I feel like I've again evolved so much since then. Um,
Mm.
some evolution could be good or bad. You know, I think there's both in that. Um, but yeah, I think, and now I've got a newborn, so now I've been thinking, oh, if
Wow.
I want to introduce him to spirituality. How can I do it in a simple way so he doesn't get
Wow.
confused?
How old?
And he's 4 months.
Is this
Um,
your first son?
first son,
First
first
child?
one,
Yeah.
first child. Yeah.
Wow.
So he's triggered
That's
that
awesome.
thought that I want to create a book that is going to kind of explain the basics, only the basics are the foundation, because the
Yeah.
rest of it he has to find by himself,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with the aid of a
Mm-hmm.
teacher and a proper lineage or whatever he chooses. But that should just be the foundation. So he doesn't get confused when he gets on that
Mm-hmm.
terrain. He
Mm-hmm.
can use his discernment, his vivek, quite well.
Mm.
And that's big in today's day. I mean, if it's big today, imagine what it's going to be like in 10, 20 years. I mean, who
Can't
knows what
imagine.
it's going to look like? So,
Mm.
yeah.
Hopefully exemplified. Hopefully to the nth degree of where it is now. But
Yeah.
it's up to us creators to be the shining example for the next generation. Not
Yeah.
even us creators, us as parents. I truly
Mm,
believe that's how we change the world, you know, because podcasts and books really aren't going to change people's mind. They can help guide for sure, but really how we change is how we change the world is through
yeah.
our upbringing of our children. I
Yeah.
believe that's really where this all comes from. Because imagine, I don't know, I've definitely asked you about your path, but I forget to be honest. But I imagine for myself, I could easily have been on this wavelength if I had the guidance from an early age. You know, if my
Mm,
parents led me there, which they didn't, if my community led me there, which it didn't. Can you imagine? Well, I imagine not having to go through the struggle, not having to go through those mental ailments that I talked about, you know, not
mm,
having to suffer to get aligned with God.
mm.
Imagine you're just born. That's such good karma to be born. I'm not trying to, you know, not trying to toot your horn here, but it's such good karma to be born in a yogic household. I can't imagine like you're it's a blessing seriously to be able to be guided from that age. I can't imagine he's gonna be a superhuman, you know, if all goes well.
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, he, but it's what you said is quite interesting. Uh, and what I found actually, like even if someone is brought up in a really kind of strong spiritual household, it can go the other way.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah. Also,
and also what I've also started to discover is it doesn't get rid of the kind of people getting depression or getting mental ailments, even
mhm,
if they have that spiritual teaching. In fact, sometimes it can do the opposite. People can become blind to the truth that's right in front of them.
hidden in plain sight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Mm,
or they take it too lightly, and
yeah.
um,
Very true. Yeah. It's almost like you don't know any better because you haven't known any different. Like this
yeah,
is it. Yeah. This is it. This is my life. And you don't, yeah, that is true. I could see why it would be like you wouldn't want anything to do with it because that's all you know. So I guess there is an importance of guidance in any fast. It doesn't have to be your children guiding somebody, but only if they want to be guided. Like don't
yes,
force it. If you
yeah,
force your children onto the path, you're not doing them any service. Ultimately, even if they are your children, we all have to do it ourselves. Like you ultimately all you have to have your own inclination within to follow this pursuit of the
yes.
path. Yeah, no one's gonna do it for you, even if it's your dad.
Yeah, like, but there is the pressure, and I think the pressure is always this. And eventually, when you probe into like people and you inquire about
Oh.
why the fireworks keep going on, I don't know what's going on here. Um, I think the main thing that happens is the parents aren't living the teaching,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the biggest
Mm.
kind of uh, kind of kind of reason. I know a lot of my friends have kind of backed up and said I don't believe in this because of my parents. They're hypocrites, and it's like,
Interesting.
wow.
Interesting.
So, and it's actually a real big thing. I find it's so easy to be a hypocrite in the spiritual path. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's. I mean, I hate when people say, "Oh, it's all about love and truth," but the path towards hypocrisy is so freaking easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable.
Well, we're talking
Yeah,
generalities,
yeah,
obviously. So I do believe if you are not faking it and you're not a hypocritical parent, like you're really true yogis, which is
yeah,
that's rare. That's rare. I think that's actually in the Bhagavad Gita. I'm
y-
pretty sure there's a passage where if you're born to yogi
y-
parents, that's some really good karma, man.
yeah,
Really good karma.
yeah.
So if you
That's
are
in.
truly born in that household, I think it's a blessing for sure. But it could be, if not in a good household, a blessing in disguise. I'm sorry, not a blessing in disguise. Um, a blessing that is a facade. It's not really like because they're living a facade. The parents are living a fake yogic life, a fake spiritual life. I could
Yeah.
definitely see that for sure. But if you're real, like if you're really aligned, which I don't even know what that looks like. I don't think I've ever met any true yogic parents, to be honest with you. Maybe you're the first. uh, but if you really are aligned, I think it is truly a blessing. It's just obviously it's hard to talk in generalities like that. There's
Yeah,
7 billion people on Earth, so it's
yeah.
hard to say.
And I think you're right. I mean, it's definitely what it said in the Gita is very true. And me and my wife, we struggled to conceive. There's no reason, we were trying for a couple of years, but one day I read that passage in the
Hmm.
Gita, and I was like, you know what? Whenever nature feels that a child is ready to be born in this house, it's going to happen, and
Yeah.
nothing in the world can stop that from happening.
Hmm.
And and maybe it is a really like now inside I feel it. I never say it, I never express it, but I think yeah, that must be a special Jeev or an Atma that's coming to our house. And I've got to serve him, not the other way around where, I've got to
Mm.
be the high and mighty dad. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
gone is that type of old. But now he's like, I've got to really like serve him properly. And,
Yeah.
um, and I think I made conscious choices to ensure none of the generational trauma gets passed um, from whatever I had to deal with was my baggage. It's got nothing to do with him, and he should
Yeah.
not bear the burden of that.
That's huge.
So
That's huge.
it's constant work.
Hmm.
I think it's necessary, um, absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Um,
That's that service. That's service right there, man. The yoga of parenting. That's a whole nother level.
yeah, yeah.
I can't imagine. I don't have any children, so I don't know that feeling. Like would I've heard this plenty of times. Like you don't know until you have a kid. Like do you feel that now with a 4 month old? Is there something about when you actually have the child, like there is something that is almost instilled in you that you didn't feel before you had your child?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have spoken about this. But the moment he was born,
Mm,
I knew what unconditional love actually felt like.
that's powerful, man. That's
Like
crazy.
I could, like, and I actually searched for it. Like I tried to find the beginning of this love, and I couldn't.
What about when you first knew that your wife was pregnant? Did you have that
I
feeling?
think it was. it doesn't feel real till you hold him
Jeez.
in your
Yeah.
or
Okay.
her in your arms,
Mm,
and you're like, oh,
that's crazy.
this is um this is a gift. And
Yeah.
that's the way I saw it, and I still see it despite the amount of diapers I've changed and all that.
Yeah.
But
That's the yoga.
yeah. And yeah, I just that's one thing I really felt like I now understood what unconditional love felt like. And I can actually not just limit it to him. I can now share that
Mm,
everywhere. And I think that means that every parent possibly has access to this. It's just about whether they are in tuned to that feeling.
yeah.
I think every parent will feel that unconditional love, but whether to transfer that to and share that to the world is a conscious choice. I feel not something that's naturally. I think because we are hardwired. Well, I believe we are hardwired to give unconditional love, but we
Mm,
have learned to only limit our love to our circle type of thing.
hmm.
So that's the
Yeah. Our
boundary you
tribe.
keep yourself in. So, um,
Yeah. Our family.
yeah, yeah. So,
Right.
and you always have that a special affection with your family, but you'll always give that special attention to them. But that doesn't mean that your love is less for a stranger on the road.
Yeah.
It's just different. But yeah, that's the one feeling. And me and my little boy Krish, we have this thing of at night time we'll we'll listen to the Nirvana Shatakam of Adi Shankara in Sanskrit, and
Oh,
then we'll
jeez.
do our personal mantra prayer, and then he falls asleep to that. So it's kind
That's
of
amazing.
it's a beautiful ritual that I
Yeah.
I love. And he smiles when he hears the music come on. Like he knows, oh, this is coming. Even though it's bedtime, and I'm sure he hates bedtime, but but like it's really nice to see. When I say to him, Shivoham, Shivoham, he just smiles. It's just it's really amazing.
Mm. Oh man, that's powerful stuff. I mean, some say that children. I've heard stories of how do I put this? Like children just saying Sanskrit mantras. They just know them
Oh, interesting.
somehow, some way. And if there are multiple lives, like they're more tuned in with that source. And we said that Sanskrit is tuned in to source. Uh, I don't know. It makes sense. Like they're able to draw on this residual memory, the mind of the mind, a little easier because they're just closer to it. They're more pure beings because we're all there. We just get we get all right. We get I was gonna say dirtied. We get dirtied along the way, impure, right?
Yeah,
We just we gotta purify ourselves to be able to see that it's always there. But the children, they like if you're truly, a children is pure consciousness. Essentially, they're the most pure form of consciousness that we can see in the material
mm,
form. So like they must just naturally resonate with that stuff. If there is some truth to the resonance and frequency of Sanskrit, there's got to be something to children just loving that naturally. There's got to be. I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe I'm just a little. I don't know. Maybe it's got to be. It's got to be
Yeah,
right.
no, no, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, a lot of teachers, and a lot of spiritual thought is that a child comes in more or less with less baggage, because then we accumulate more baggage as we grow older.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, they come in with that, and also they don't have any past to remember. Yeah, everything
Mm.
else is just muscle
Hmm.
memory, if you look at it physically. But in terms of actual memory that we keep that is sentimental and emotional, that's something that we kind of get at a later age. And so, yeah, they have that ability. And I guess those are the formative years, maybe, what we're talking
Think so.
about
Yeah.
getting, giving the right introduction. That is
Hmm.
formative years. After that, then it's kind of like, yeah, you just have to kind of work it out and you'll get there, type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely the formative years for everybody. That
Yes.
serves as a foundation for everything else in our life. It's our childhood and our upbringing. It's
Yes.
interesting because most of it is not up to us. It's not up to our will. Just something that we're, you know, just happens to us.
Yeah.
Our childhood, everything. Yeah, just happens to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that makes me believe in karma even more. Like how
Yeah.
much our childhood and our upbringing affects who we are as individuals and how we live the dharma, how it comes to us. Makes me believe that there's not a lot. How do I put this? I was gonna say we don't have a lot of say in it. We're just kind of strung along
Hmm.
in samsara. We're strung along through our karma, and
Yeah.
childhood is seems to be like our upbringing seems to be somewhere where a lot of us reap karma very quickly.
Hmm.
Like a lot of us reap the cause and effect of karma. The effects, if there are previous lives that we create causes from, it seems to be our childhood is somewhere where the effects really come into being.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. So
I don't
I
know.
would like to ask you, no, those wonderful thoughts and deep, profound thoughts. But like, have you felt that in your own spiritual journey, has it been very conflicting with your family, or have they been very supportive? Because it's not, you've gone towards the east and you appear as someone from the west. So, so how
Yes.
does yeah, and how's that been for you? I mean, is it easy as people make it out to be, or is it pretty challenging?
For the family life, they don't understand. I tried
Mm.
to be evangelical about it in the beginning
Y-
because
As we
ultimately I
all are.
felt how, yeah, exactly. Because I think it's just the byproduct because I felt how good I felt. So I'm like, I just want to bring everybody along, but it's not that easy. You can't just, it's not that easy. Like we said before, you have to bring yourself to the path. Nobody else is
Mm.
really going to do it for you, and you can't force it upon anybody. So yeah, my family don't really understand. I'm still very close with them, but they just unconditionally love me either way. They probably just think I'm onto some craziness. Maybe I am to a certain extent, but they don't have any idea about what they have no inclination toward yogic philosophy, unfortunately. Maybe someday, who knows? Maybe that's just not how it was meant to be. It's not
Yeah,
in the cards. That's not
yeah,
how the cards were dealt. But
yeah,
they're fully supportive and they fully love me, and that's really all that matters. Unconditional love,
yes,
that's really all that matters. So it hasn't really been difficult, to be honest. Maybe there are some misunderstandings along the way on why I do what I do, but at the end of the day, it doesn't. I don't. I was gonna say it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter, man. Yeah, it doesn't matter what they think.
mm,
I do what I do, and they love me. I love them, and that's it. And yeah, it's as simple as that. I definitely have been blessed with a supportive family, for sure. As in, like supportive, not in the sense of my sadhana, but supportive just in just being present. Just being good
mm,
people. Good
yeah,
people. You can be a
yeah,
good person and not be into yogic philosophy,
yeah,
but they're just
exactly,
good
yeah,
people,
yeah,
and that's all that matters to me. That's
yeah,
really all that matters.
yeah,
So,
that's really
yeah.
nice. No, that's what matters, I think. Even even like, for example, that's it's interesting you say that because I just think of I've been to so many, like I went to houses in India, and every member of the family believed in a different deity, or believed in, and if someone believed in, like, say, Krishna, someone believed in Ram, someone believed,
Hmm.
and there'd be, or Hanumanji, and everyone would be like kind
Yeah.
of arguing amongst each other who's the best deity. So I think you can also have s- the other side to it. So I think it's, as long as there's that underlying love and respect, I think
Yeah.
that's brilliant. I mean, what more do you want? It, it gets challenging when, I guess, from I'll bring it back to, like, kind of ourselves, is when we feel that they are wrong. I think when that happens, that's when spiritual ego it kind of takes
Mhm.
over. And it
Mhm.
doesn't matter if we're part of the yogic philosophy or non-yogic, we have faltered right there and then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're wrong for being them.
Yeah.
Very
You know,
true. The best way to go about it is unconditionally love them back.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So just be there for them. Don't try to like put who you are onto them. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And that's where another where I get into past lives. It's like I most likely was a yogi in a past life, built upon this sort of foundation of past lives. And then I was born into this family that is not on the path. They probably weren't on the maybe, but they're not in this one. Um, and that's the thing we have to deal with is like even if you're in a family, like a genetic material family, you're still dealing with like other people's karma, other
Mm.
people's past lives. And that's where it can get really messy. I think just because you're born into somebody's family doesn't mean they're going to align with your karma in a way that is yogic. Like it may be like, obviously like you obviously align somehow with the karma, the cause and effect of it all. But you might not have been in the same monastery in
Yes.
a previous life just because somebody is your mom or your dad. And working with that is a yoga as well. Like working with that,
Yes.
like how do I love these people even though they don't? How do I see these people as God? Ultimately, that's the goal, right? See people
Yeah.
as God in drag, even if they don't
Yeah.
know they're God, even if they have no inclination toward that whatsoever. That's not even just your parents, but everybody.
Yeah.
You know, the intermingling of all of our karma. That's the work,
Yes.
right? That's
Yes.
why we go on and do all this stuff so that we can at all times, hopefully, ideally, see people as God in drag and unconditionally love them. It's as simple as that. I'm pretty sure we've all heard that before, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Love is the answer, but that's really what it comes down to, man. We do all this work, we go on the path, all of the meditation, all of the books, all of the reminders, so that we can remind ourselves that yes, we are a part, a fragment of God, but not just us. That's a sense of solipsism. Everybody else too, they're in on it, even if they don't know they're in on it.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so that's it. That's really what it comes down to. You have to stay on that wavelength as much as possible. Whatever you got to do to get there, to have that recognition, go with that. That's what I say.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, man.
You mentioned group kirtan, and so I wanted to kind of go into um, do you have obviously from the interviews that you do, your YouTube channel, Conscious Perspectives, and do you have you created community from that, and how has that been for you? And do you find that creating a true spiritual community can be challenging in today's times?
I haven't really created that much of a community other than my channel. Like I have that serve as the community, but nothing like a virtual sangha. I do have a
Mhm.
Discord, not very active in there. Got maybe 30 members. Very low key. I don't advertise it. So I haven't created a community of discourse per se.
Mhm.
I just have the YouTube channel serve as that in the comment section and the community section. So not really, kinda getting there. I know there's definitely people that are a lot more in depth with their presence in a community, such as Discord or maybe forums. Um, I
Mhm.
haven't felt the need to do that. I don't know why. I don't really feel like that is beneficial for me or anybody. I don't know why. I just figured like just leave a YouTube comment or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't know why. That's just not maybe in the future for sure. I think because there's a part of me that's afraid to have people see me as the guru or the leader of the commune per se. I don't
Mm,
want that. I don't want that at all. Even though I know my YouTube channel is named after me, I don't want necessarily people approaching me with questions because I just don't feel as though that's my sadhana. That's not my service here. Like to
mm.
be the question and answer guy. There's plenty of others out there like that. I will if people do approach me, and there's sometimes people do, but I don't want to like actively create that. I don't know why. There's something in me. It's like I don't know. Maybe it's because I do it to check my own ego. Like I
Mm,
don't feel maybe not integrated enough to be able to have that responsibility.
mm,
Who knows? Who knows? But on talking on the importance of community, I do believe community is very important. So even if you don't find a community with me, even though I do have a low key community on through my channel, but I do believe it's important to tap in with other people and have discourse with other people in any form of community that you find. Just
mm.
because I don't know, it's just good. Discourse is good. There's the three jewels of Buddhism, right? It's the Buddha, the Dharma, and the
Sangha,
Sangha.
yeah,
Can't negate that one. So I do believe community is extremely important in this path. My community is the people, like my person, like people that I view as community is the people that I just come on here and speak with in conversations just like this. But
yeah,
having one that is centered around me, I don't know, that's scary to me. I don't
yeah,
know. I don't want like to me to be the guy, you know, because I don't know. I just see how it could get a little messy.
yeah, yeah.
So not
No,
yet.
it's interesting because obviously I've tried to. I mean, you make that conscious effort to try and bring it about the say the podcast, or it's not about me, the person. Uh, and I remember I used to do a lot of lives. Obviously, life has changed where I can't do any TikTok lives or YouTube lives and stuff. But I used to get people on. They'd be like, "Oh, are you a guru?" And I'm like, "No."
Uh-huh.
I mean, I
Uh-huh.
have a guru, so why would I be a guru myself? And two, I don't. I, I'm not comfortable with that either. Like I
Yeah.
feel again, I'm not. I'm only whatever I'm teaching is only what I've learned so far, and I believe there's a lot more that I can share,
Mhm.
and that's and learn along the way. So
Mhm.
it's like if I'm someone who's learning and still kind of trying to progress and trying to get to the ultimate stage of liberation,
Yeah.
how can you see me as a guru? And so I'm very, and the thing is, the worst thing is the moment you put yourself on a pedestal,
Mm.
it's very, you make you make that one kind of you make that one exception to the rule, then you've opened the floodgates.
Yeah.
So I think
At
it's,
least
yeah, you have to make that conscious choice.
yeah, man. At least you're mature enough to see that and that you don't want to do that yourself. Like you're two steps ahead of yourself. You know,
Well,
you go.
you have to, man.
Yeah.
I have Patreon and everything, and it is centered. Like I can see it's centered around me and my content. But again, it's the content that's speaking, not me. I mean, I am only
Exactly.
there because of the content. The moment
Mhm.
the content goes, I do not exist. And
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I think uh, once that's set in your brain, and once people also know that you're part of a lineage and you have a guru, and I think people then naturally stop kind of trying to. Actually, people are trying to like kind of give you the pump, right? They're trying to like kind of prop
Mhm.
you up, and I think that lessens, and I don't get that anymore, which is good. Um, I get a lot more people who just want to be my friend. I'm like, I can help you as a friend.
Yeah,
I,
that's
and
better
I'm
off.
and I'm
Mhm.
more comfortable helping you as a friend.
Mhm.
Because if I give you advice, it can be wrong, and
Mhm.
like a friend, you have to forgive me. Um,
Yeah.
and and I will
Exactly.
apologize. I have to say sorry.
Mhm.
I think, but I think there's a place for people like us who are in the like intermediary position type of thing. We're,
Yeah.
we're not monks, but at the same time, we are kind of the. I would say like we're the. Like I like to see myself as someone who is like this. I would like to be. I would say the first good step, and basically someone's going to lift you up
Yeah.
and like
Like an
take you to
introduction.
someone. Yeah, a good
Yeah.
introduction, and there's someone better
Yeah.
than me.
I approach it in the same way. Yeah, here's
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
way more eloquent than I am.
Yeah, yeah, go
Yeah.
to them. Um,
Exactly.
Exhaust as much as me as you can, and then I'm open to say I have my limitation. I have a
Yeah.
boundary. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to kind of do that. And when you have Q&As, like especially in those, you have to make sure you set the it's something Rupert Spira said. I really liked it. It was in one of his webinars, and he said that when you ask me a question, yes, I'm the teacher. But if I ask you a question and you have to answer, you're now the teacher. I'm now the student. And I like that. I was like,
Mm.
yeah, man, the guy could be a real deal here because he's just said that. Nobody really likes to say stuff like that.
Yeah.
If they want to make it big as a non-dual teacher. so
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it's interesting. So I think seeing yourself as a friend is probably more beneficial
Mm.
than someone seeing you as a teacher, I think,
I
or
agree.
seeing me
Yeah.
one as a teacher.
And ultimately, that means just seeing yourself as equal.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
Like, just because you're a subscriber doesn't mean I'm better than you, or you're a follower of me doesn't mean I'm
yeah,
better. Like, seeing yourself as equal to everybody else is very important.
yes.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the philosophy that I follow is that we're all this one formless entity, pure
Yeah.
consciousness. So how can I even be better than you? It will go against the philosophy
Yeah.
that I believe in. You
Yeah.
know, do you
It's
see what I
true.
mean? So it's like that
Yeah.
philosophy doesn't allow me to. That philosophy has liberated me. At the same time, has kept me in a nice boundary. Uh,
Mm.
a boundary that I know is an illusion, but only I should know it's an illusion. Nobody else. It's nobody else's business. Um,
Uh-huh.
but
Mm.
yeah, it's kind of cool. But I was interested to ask you because like you've interviewed so many people, and you know the interviews I've watched personally have been like kind of. I feel because you're quite centered, the other person naturally kind of grabs that vibe.
I think
Um,
so. Sometimes it takes a little bit. Oh, by the half an hour mark, and like, all right, we're
but
good.
like, but yeah, but and I've seen kind of, and you ask from a place of wanting to know more, a desire to kind of progress yourself, and I think when that happens, when
Yeah.
you, I think I think that's why I was like, he must have a community around him, and I wonder what that's like. Um, because you say cool stuff in the interviews too, so it's not
I say
um,
cool stuff in interview. Oh, yeah.
in
Yeah,
your
yeah.
podcast, yeah,
Sometimes here and there, I trickle
yeah,
one in there, some
yeah.
stuff. Well, on the note of why I don't want to like have any sort of community that I tap in with regularly, it's because I still do feel as though I'm learning. Like, I am genuinely curious and learning when I come on here. It's not just some kind of show. Like, when I bring somebody on, I'm like, all right, well, they're the guru, and I'm going to learn from
Mm,
them. And that's
mm,
how I approach every single interaction. So I don't feel like my dharma here, my service here, is to be the guru.
mm,
My guru ship, if you want to call me a guru, is to be almost like the curious mind of the listener and
mm.
follow that.
Beautiful.
That's it. Like, I'm the one that asks questions. I don't exactly know how to answer stuff sometimes. It's very hard to answer stuff because you have to answer from a place of generality. And that's very
Mm,
tough because everybody has their own subjective experience. So it's hard to answer. Like, I really do find it hard to answer some questions. So at this point in time, yeah, I just approach my path is just approaching it as a seeker. And I know people hate to say that word, but just a spiritual seeker and
yeah.
going with that, just genuinely genuine questioning what this person is about and keeping it at that. That's as simple as that, man. And there is some kind of community that is formed around that, but not in the sense that like a commune. I'm not starting a commune anytime soon, you know?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
yeah, that would definitely get
Yeah.
headlines.
Yeah. It's the cult of Gary. Yeah. I want to not go down that. I want to avoid that as much as possible. I don't want that at all. Just want to
Yeah.
be the guy. Like, you follow me, it's like hands off. Like, I approach my creation as very hands off. Like, I'm doing me. I'm doing
Mm,
me. and just throwing it out there. You guys can follow me. And that may seem like a little shallow, but that's so that I avoid the complex of like, I'm important. Look at me. I make YouTube videos. You don't. I'm cool. You're not. Like,
Mm.
I don't want to get involved with that. It's very, maybe because I know my own ego. So I do that to check myself. But that's just how, where I feel that I'm at in the process right now. So I avoid the cult of Gary.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. I
Also,
think,
2 steps ahead of my ego.
yeah,
Sorry.
no, yeah. And I think that humility in spirituality is very much required. I think it's one
Hmm.
of the basic things we need. If we lack that humility and honesty, I I don't feel anyone can go far on the
Oh,
spiritual
yeah.
path.
Yeah.
It,
Humility and knowing that you don't know,
yeah,
right? That's Socrates right there.
yeah,
You
true.
have to know that you don't know. Truly, that's the only thing that I could really say that I know. That's the
Yeah,
only truth that I could
yeah,
really convey is that I have no idea. I have really no idea.
yeah. And the interesting thing here is, if to put a Vedantic spin on that, you're the awareness that says they don't know.
Hmm.
Like you're just that awareness
That's it.
that says I don't know. I mean, simple as
That's
that,
really it.
man. And
Yeah.
so how can anyone get an ego from just being aware? It's impossible. Well, I'm sure people can make it a possibility, but I find it to be impossible because nothing
Yeah.
sticks to it.
Yeah. If you're truly living that awareness, then no, you're not going to be inclined to have an ego, but it's so like it's hard, man. It's not
Yeah,
easy to do. There's a reason why we revere people like Ramana Maharshi
yeah,
and saints of that nature because they are there. That's them.
yeah,
That's them. Few and far between. They're a saint for a reason.
yes,
There's other people that seem saintly. They wear the robes. They change their name.
yeah,
They have charisma, but they're not actually acting from that place. And this is the topic that I like to get into with people. It's like, all right, so now that you're here, you have this awareness, you have this sense of oneness, you have this sense of self with the uppercase S. How does that change how we see you? How do you act? Like, how does that change your will here? Because that's what's
mm,
really important, right? How we
mm,
change ourselves. So if you really are resonating in that frequency, the frequency of unconditional love of God, you're way past your egotistical manifestations. Like they're not going to take a hold of you. If you're really there, it's not, you don't have to worry about starting a cult. It just won't happen. Now your character won't allow that to happen. You know, it's
mm,
it's just like a changing of will. Like universal will trumps the ego,
mm.
uh, no matter what. But it's easy to bypass that and think you are the divine holy one.
Yeah,
That's like the last trap, right? The
yeah,
spiritual trap.
yeah,
That's where the guru complex comes from.
yeah,
Is they
yeah,
think they're there, they think they've mastered it all, but it's just the ego. It's just the ego, and that could be a really tricky trap. How do you dispel the spiritual ego when you think you've made it per se?
mm.
Oh, that's tough. I feel like that's some bad karma. That's
Yeah,
some real
yeah,
bad karma.
yeah.
The
I mean,
the guru that is the fake guru, you know.
yeah. Do you ever get like
uh,
asked, "Are you enlightened?"
hmm.
Is in the comments just like being like, "Are you
I got a
enlightened?"
question one time. Are you a bodhisattva?
Okay,
And I
that's
didn't know
good.
how to answer that. I said we're all the bodhisattva.
Yeah.
Um, I've got one person that said you are my guru, or I see you as my guru. I'm like, oh God, don't say that. And yeah, I've gotten that. I don't think I've ever gotten "Are you enlightened?" because I'm usually the one asking the questions, and
Yeah.
I never ask that question. Don't ask that question. Don't just that's like to a real. If there's somebody's really enlightened, you're not gonna have to ask the question. Like
Yeah,
you'll just
yeah,
know. You'll
yeah.
know there is some level of awakening or enlightenment just by how they carry themselves. So
Yes.
that question is just really immature, to be honest with you. That's some
Yeah.
like elementary stuff, but I don't think I've ever been asked that, to be honest. And I think it's because, like I said, I'm usually the one asking questions.
Yeah. I've had
What
I've had it on like TikTok
do you say?
mainly, and I just said,
Of
I
course, it's on
would,
TikTok.
yeah, yeah. uh, I think I may have had it once or twice on YouTube, but definitely on TikTok. I turned around and said, even if I am enlightened, I'm never telling you because it's none of your business. And
It's a good way to put it.
I mean, it really isn't. Like, I don't think anyone needs to know. I mean, I
Mm.
kind of, yeah, in my household, yeah, I joke around, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm the enlightened one. It's like creating that whole like facade of and mocking when people think they're enlightened. And I make jokes about that, but yeah, I have learned that some of these jokes can kind of people can misunderstand it. So I have to keep my weird sense of humor sometimes. I
Mm.
just share that with my wife. But my honest feeling is always, even if I was enlightened, it doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
really doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, because what is saying it is enlightened is only name and form, and that's not even real. So
Yeah, exactly.
also, I'm like, even if I did answer yes, what difference does that make? Like, eh, is that
Yeah,
person suddenly
exactly.
gonna come by and like offer me a Rolls Royce or something? Like, yeah,
Mhm.
I
Yeah, right?
don't.
Yeah, what is that? I don't know.
Like,
Where does
what?
that question come from? I guess is a good quandary to go into. Like, why is this person asking me if I'm enlightened? Like, what do they want to know about that? I don't know. Like, why would you? Because I've never been inclined to ask that question. I've never said to ask this person if they're enlightened. I guess they're just not integrated enough on the path.
Yeah, it's come from. I would say it's when you know you're not enlightened, but also there's that added thing of being a keyboard warrior. So you
Oh, I see.
could
Mm,
ask that question just to kind of catch someone
test.
out.
Yeah. Okay.
And I
I can
think,
see that.
and that's, I mean, it's the most beautiful thing. Yeah, the craziest thing too that can happen.
Yeah. And like you said, even if you were enlightened, it's none of their business. Because once you
Yeah,
do say, "Yeah, I'm enlightened," like it's nothing. Because if you really were, I guess, how else would you answer that question? You just say, "Yeah," and you know you are. Yeah. But then from then on out, you've claimed that you are an enlightened being. So if you do something, yeah, but they're enlightened. They said they're enlightened. It's like it
yeah,
could be held against you.
yeah.
It's very immature to ask that, and it's not useful. It's not useful for
Yeah.
anybody, you know.
It's like you said, you can tell it from their their energy and
Demeanor, their
their
vibe, yeah.
teaching. Yeah, you can just tell
Hmm.
from
Oh
the
yeah.
moment they express something, you feel there's a higher connection of some
Hmm.
sort, and um, I think
Hmm.
that's all that matters, really.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Real
yeah,
recognize real too.
yeah, but yeah. So just to wrap up our conversation, the one thing I definitely want to ask, and I think you've answered it throughout the podcast, but I think you can sum it up nicely. What advice would you give to someone that is searching for spiritual guidance on YouTube today?
On YouTube,
Yeah.
don't believe everything you see on YouTube. Honestly, there's a lot of garbage. For lack of a better word, hopefully not sounding too crude, but there is a lot of garbage. There's a lot of pseudo spirituality. You got to sift through it to find the good stuff. I like to think I create the good stuff, you create the good stuff. I like to think so, but if you don't resonate, you don't resonate. That's okay. But point of the story is you have to be able to find what you resonate with. You have to sift through it. You're going to come across some garbage, some stuff you truly don't resonate with, stuff that makes you go, huh? But don't let that discourage you from finding true guidance because there's real people out there. And I didn't know how many real ones, I like to call them, were out there until I started doing the podcast. But there's a lot of real people that are really earnest on the path that don't have a lot of views and they don't have a lot of subscribers. You just got to find them. Like you just, I don't know how to find them. The algorithm throws them my way. Search certain words. Look at podcasts, especially look at my podcast if you want to find some real people.
Yeah.
It's a selfless
Yeah.
plug
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
No, no, yeah.
and just if you resonate with those like a certain person or people, stay with them. Stay with that and stay with that certain energy, you know? Real recognize real, like I said, like attracts like. So just go with that. And yeah, that's it. I guess just find what you resonate with, not even just on YouTube, also in books, people in your life, all mediums of energy that you bring forth into your life. Find that subtle resonance, that subtle whisper of intuition,
Mm,
like we said before, and
yes.
that'll lead the way.
Beautiful,
That's all.
beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. It's been wonderful having you here. This is my first
As
of
well.
this Bearded Mystic Oneness conversations, and we are truly one here. I mean,
Mm,
I've really learned a lot from you today. Some things I think I'm gonna like kind of really contemplate upon because there's some of the things we've talked about, especially about poetry and kind of the sounds and language
yeah.
has really been has really really kind of stood out for me today. So thank you for opening up, because you go through that phase where you stop reading certain things and you think you kind of you don't need to read that stuff anymore. But
Hmm.
I feel like after speaking with you, I felt that actually maybe I want to revisit some of those poems that I read in the past and see how I read them today.
It's a good idea.
So
Always the student. That's what I like to
yeah,
say.
yes,
Let me
absolutely.
give you a recommendation.
Yeah.
The Upanishad's commentary or translation by Aurobindo. I was reading this actually before we came in.
Oh, nice,
Probably the best translation that I have read. Not that I've read too much, but from what I have read, that is the best translation of the Upanishads. Um,
nice.
yeah, Aurobindo is he's
Yeah,
up there.
yeah.
He's the true sage. So
Yeah,
I'd recommend
yes.
that.
Yeah, no, thank you. And that's and I'm gonna read that actually. I'm gonna put that as my next book to read. Thank you very much, Gary, for coming onto this show, coming on here and sharing your wisdom with us all. And those of you that are watching, um, subscribe to the channel, but mainly before you even subscribe to mine, subscribe to Gary's channel, which is in the show notes and video description below. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.